And those who get rich from the status quo in D.C. are always going to be threatened by anyone demanding accountability.
This week, we saw Donald Trump make the first round of nominations for his cabinet. And it's been utter chaos. Some of the most unqualified and dangerous individuals, conspiracy theorists, and cultists filling the most important roles in our government. It feels like the world has been turned upside down. And that's why it should be no surprise that we got this surprise today. Positive news out of the Fox propaganda network. Yes, Fox is sharing positive news for us and bad news for Donald Trump because host Trey Gowdy gave an update on one of the members of Donald Trump's potential cabinet, one of his nominees who is incredibly unlikely to be confirmed by the Senate, and a devastating blow to Donald Trump. And we are going to get into all of that. And the hilarious reaction that we saw from the other Fox anchors on the panel as they got this bad news. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really means the world to me now. Before we get into this devastating update for Donald Trump on Fox, I want an update on Donald Trump's cabinet nominees with this breakdown on Matt Gaetz from Chris Hayes.
He's a former Deputy Assistant Attorney General of the Department of Justice, host of the Talking Feds podcast, senior legal affairs columnist for the Los Angeles Times, and he joins me now. I want to talk a little bit about, in some ways, about what I just did with Kathleen Sebelius about HHS, about Main Justice, as it's called, Department of Justice, and just how important the position of Attorney General is. You have a sort of unique perspective. You worked in Main Justice underneath the Attorney General, and then you worked as a U.S. Attorney out in the field. So you know it sort of from both places. And just, if 10 is like, this is a complete, catastrophe, Matt Gaetz, and 1 is like, the department will survive, where would you put yourself?
Yeah, it's a clear break glass moment. It's 10. There's never been someone as unqualified, no prosecutorial experience, no legal experience to speak of, but that's the least of it. Someone who comes to the department with actual contempt and hostility for it. It's going to prompt a major exodus. It's going to prompt judges and juries around the country to have less credibility in the DOJ, which is the really stock and trade of the DOJ. It will ultimately cause the public to have less. But I want to double back, Chris, to this HHS point and Tom Daschle. Everything about the ethics report, that is a red herring. Same with the irrelevant fact that the department didn't charge him beyond a reasonable doubt. How do you judge character? How do you judge conduct? By a background investigation, which I did for prospective judges, and I underwent twice. There are tens of thousands of professionals in the Department of Justice. None of them could be hired for their job if they did what Matt Gaetz is accused of doing. MDMA is a friggin' Schedule I controlled substance. Anyone who did that after law school would be absolutely disqualified. And it's more than that, and all these behaviors. There have been so many people we don't know about who are disqualified after background investigations because they pose risk to the national security. Gaetz is now saying, he's as prominent as can be, I never done any of these. What does that mean to any FBI agent who, of course, he abhors national security risk? Joel Greenberg rotting in jail for the same thing Matt Gaetz did 11 years in Florida. What does he have on him that he can blackmail? What girls, minor or not, can come forward about their drug-fueled orgies, every single one of which Matt Gaetz denies? What else was he doing, bragging on the floor, showing pictures of sexual conquest? For character and national security, there is zero chance that anyone who had done that contact, much less what a background investigation would turn up, they go cradle to grave, could even get the first step toward an appointment at the lowest professional level of the Department of Justice, not to mention Attorney General.
Like I said, some of the most dangerous and unqualified individuals, and Matt Gaetz is number one on that list. And it is the reason why I think he is the one who Republicans will be unwilling to nominate, unwilling to confirm, because in all of their spinelessness and all of their cult-like devotion to Donald Trump, Matt Gaetz is probably a bridge too far to them. And that's why we got this crushing update for Donald Trump and Fox right here.
All right, let me ask this. Back to our cabinet casino. If you have $100 in chips, this isn't audible, what percentage of those chips are you putting down that at least one of these cabinet nominees does not make it through? Trey.
Can I get more than 100? Everything I have. I talk to senators all the time. One of them is not going to get through.
Because you're confident that the head count is not there?
The head count is not even 50-50 on one of them. One of them can't even get half the Republican senators. But I'll let you guess from our earlier discussion who that might be.
I sense where that's going with you. Okay, Molly.
You can just see how sad Brett Baer is at this news, and I'm sure that he expects Donald Trump will be Rage Truth Social posting about this, angry as can be that there is an update out of Fox that is not positive for him, but gosh, isn't that great to hear? Because like I said, we don't expect Republicans to have spines, but if there was ever a time, it was in 2016 and voting against Donald Trump, and then in 2020 again, and then in 2024. But now, please have a spine in this moment, and especially because all of y'all have come out publicly against Matt Gaetz, as we see in this compilation right here.
I served 20 years in the military. It's my absolute honor to be in Congress, but I served with some real scumbags. Look, Matt Gaetz, he paid minors to have sex with him at drug parties.
He was accused of sleeping with an underage girl. And there's a reason why no one in the conference came and defended him, because we had all seen the videos he was showing on the House floor that all of us had walked away of the girls that he had slept with. He'd brag about how he would crush ED medicine and chase it with an energy drink so he could go all night.
He was a member-elect, so we was going through conference and orientation, and he walked up to me as Chrissy Nolan, now Governor Chrissy Nolan, and he said, "Man, she's a fine," and you can put the B word in place there. And I looked at him, I said, "Really?" Because Christy is a very close friend of mine, and he turned around and walked away. Later, I will say he came up and apologized for that, but he still shouldn't have said it. It was completely out of line, and this is the type of individual Matt Gaetz is.
You know he is a danger because you said so yourself. So honor your own words. You can continue to turn your back on the truth, but your truth, that's a little far. Even for Republicans, actually. It's not that far for Republicans. That's exactly what Republicans do. They turn their backs on the truth except for some instances when it accidentally slips out, which it did for Laura Ingraham in this clip right here.
And those who get rich from the status quo in D.C. are always going to be threatened by anyone demanding accountability. And this explains a lot of the frenzy over Trump's recent cabinet picks. Tulsi Gabbard as director of national intelligence? You think Trump had given it to Putin himself?
Yeah, Laura, we're responding to the nomination of Tulsi Gabbard because she does have a direct line for Putin. We heard Hillary Clinton said this years ago, and it's well believed by even Republicans, even those around Trump, that Tulsi Gabbard is a sympathizer of Russia, and she would be a dangerous person to head up our intelligence community. She just can't. There are so many Republicans, really all of them, who should not be allowed to be a part of Donald Trump cabinet. And at this point, we're on a wing and a prayer that Republicans have some spine. And if the past 9 years have told us anything, it's that doesn't look too good. But having said that, I think it's time for us to have a little bit of positive news, and that came with Petey Buttigieg talking about the wins of a real administration with a real cabinet right here.
The big deal. let's get it started right now. Let's see if it can catch on.
I hope it does. First of all, I think it's a Biden-esque turn of phrase, but also the only way to really capture the transformative investments that have been made, certainly in transportation infrastructure, the part that I've had the honor and privilege of working on, but also the removal of lead pipes that have been poisoning children for decades in this country, the extension of broadband internet access to millions of households, the improvements to the energy grid. Unlike some of the other moments in our infrastructure history that had a single piece of infrastructure that was changed. Think of the Interstate Highway Program under Eisenhower, a massive achievement, but it was one thing. The Transcontinental Railroad under Lincoln. But this is a little bit hard to characterize because it touches so many things that the only thing that all of those different kinds of investments really have in common is the scale, the scope, the imagination, and that recognition that confronted with a crisis, in some ways, as FDR was confronted with a crisis, President Biden responded with a level of ambition, saying, let's take the tools of government, use them to solve both short-term and long-term problems. And that's what this decade of infrastructure is all about.
Oh gosh, we really flubbed it. Well, you didn't. We voted for VP Harris, but the rest of the country, they flubbed it all. Those wins, all those successes, all that legislation, and we wanted Donald Trump back. I'll never understand it. But we will spend every day calling it out, and that's what we're going to be doing on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, you can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I'll see you soon.